Chosen one, you are not imagining the pressure that has been pressing against your life. You are not imagining the heaviness that sometimes greets you before the day even begins. You are not imagining the strange resistance that rises whenever you try to move forward. There has been an altar of intention, yes, a place where unseen words and energies were directed against you. But understand this, that altar was never stronger than the purpose that formed you. It was never greater than the breath that still fills your lungs. You were born with a signature of divine fire, and no gathering of shadow can rewrite that code. They spoke about you in places you were never invited to. They planned around your absence. They tried to design confusion like a net and throw it over your path, hoping you would walk yourself into doubt. You felt it as a fog, as delays, as silence where there should have been clarity. Yet even in that fog, something in you kept burning. It was the ancient awareness that what belongs to you cannot be stolen. It can only be postponed until you remember who you are. You began to sense it in the small details. A phone call that should have opened a door instead went unanswered. A conversation that once brought light now felt heavy. The laughter around certain tables suddenly sounded rehearsed. You did not have proof, but your spirit whispered, "Something here is off." That whisper was the sound of your protection system activating. It was the guardian force inside you tightening the perimeter. For every unseen meeting that discussed your name, there was another gathering of light ensuring your preservation. What they did not realize is that your journey has never been dependent on their permission. You were destined to rise through contradiction. Pressure has been your tutor. Betrayal has been your initiator. Isolation has been your classroom. Every delay was a disguised download. Every rejection was a redirected blessing. The so-called altar they built was only a mirror reflecting their own fear of your potential. Look closer. Every person who tried to silence you was revealing how powerful your voice truly is. They would not have fought your sound if it carried no authority. They would not have targeted your confidence if it held no creative power. The very fact that opposition formed proves that your presence disrupts stagnation. You are catalytic by design. When you walk into a room, energies rearrange themselves. The air changes temperature. Hidden motives surface. That is not paranoia, that is perception. You were never meant to live quietly in the background. You were born with a roar in your chest. Not the roar of arrogance, but the roar of awareness, the sound creation makes when it recognizes itself. Somewhere along the way, life tried to train you into silence. Society told you humility meant shrinking. Friends told you peace meant pretending. Religion told you holiness meant hiding. But the universe has been whispering something different. Speak, even if your voice trembles. Move, even if your knees shake. Declare, even if no one claps. When you remember this, the so-called altar begins to lose power. Because no ritual can function without your agreement. No curse can anchor itself in a heart that refuses residence to fear. Your freedom starts the moment you stop arguing with your calling and start aligning with it. The moment you say, "I will not apologize for existing exactly as designed," the altar collapses under the weight of its own futility. Understand, chosen one, your purpose threatened the comfortable. Your light exposed what preferred darkness. Your progress reminded others of their own stagnation. So they gathered, not around literal fire and candles, but around gossip, envy, and projection. They built a spiritual construct out of words, emotions, and intention. Words are energy. Jealousy is a kind of spell. But you were wrapped in armor long before their conversations began. Every time someone spoke against you, the universe converted their sentence into strength training for your soul. You may ask, why would I be targeted for merely trying to do good? Because light irritates what has adjusted to shadows. Because your integrity unmasks convenience. Because your excellence challenges mediocrity to evolve or move aside. Attacks are simply applause from the insecure. They confirm that you are shaking a structure they depend on. The pressure you've felt is proof of impact. Let's speak plainly. You've been tired. The unseen warfare has been real, not necessarily in candles and chants, but in the emotional weight, in the sudden waves of anxiety, in the exhaustion that seems to come from nowhere. These are signatures of energetic entanglement, not proof of your weakness but proof of your sensitivity. You are an antenna for frequencies beyond the obvious. The key is to learn discernment, to ask, is this mine? Before claiming every emotion as your own. What does not originate in your truth has no right to stay. As you awaken to this truth, your environment begins to reorder itself. People who were never meant to walk with you will quietly exit. Situations that thrived on your confusion will crumble. You will notice a divine cleanup unfolding. Do not chase what detaches, bless it as it leaves. Every subtraction creates space for precision. Every ending is an announcement of upgrade. You are not losing people, you are losing distortion. Now listen carefully. Your next season requires sound. You silence the altar's echo by releasing your roar. Speak affirmations that realign your energy. I am shielded. I am directed. I am connected to Source. No counterfeit frequency can override my design. Each word you speak reprograms your atmosphere. The universe rearranges itself to obey conviction. Sound is construction. Your voice is the blueprint. When you declare peace, chaos loses its coordinates. You will soon realize that nothing external truly held you. It was never their ritual. It was your hesitation. The moment you act with decisive faith, the invisible cords disintegrate. This is why clarity feels like a physical relief, because spiritual weight lifts when mental agreement shifts. The enemy was never the stranger performing against you. The real enemy was the part of you that doubted your own magnitude. But that part is dissolving now. Take a breath. Feel the air that sustains galaxies move through you. That same creative breath that spoke worlds into existence is what animates your lungs. That is your covenant of victory. You do not need to fight darkness with more darkness. You simply need to turn on the light. Remember, darkness has no identity apart from absence. The moment you illuminate, absence disappears. Chosen one, your resilience has already rewritten the outcome. While others conspired, you evolved. While they were plotting delay, you were collecting data, learning patience, discernment, self-control. These are not minor virtues, they are royal attributes. You have been in training for sovereignty. What they called opposition, heaven called orientation. The obstacles became equipment. The confusion became compass. The altar became an accelerator. And now, a turning is underway. Energy that once moved against you is being rerouted through you. The same intensity that tried to silence you will now amplify your message. The same attention that was misused will now advertise your elevation. Those who once whispered will soon watch in awe as doors open that they cannot explain. But do not gloat. Keep your heart clean. Remember, victory without humility becomes another trap. There is a law written across the fabric of existence. Everything sent returns to its source magnified. Every word, every wish, every intention. When love sends, love multiplies. When malice sends, malice rebounds. You need not chase justice. The system of creation self-balances. Your task is alignment, staying in the frequency of purpose, gratitude, and forward motion. That is how you win without warfare. Think of the altar again. Imagine it now as a metaphor for every place where you once invested energy in fear. See yourself walking up to that structure, not to curse it, but to reclaim it. Place your hand over the center and declare, from this moment, this becomes an altar of restoration. Watching your mind as every candle of confusion transforms into light of insight. The same platform once used to attack you becomes the stage that will announce you. Because redemption always repurposes ruins. You have crossed the threshold. The fatigue you felt was the shedding of outdated versions. The sadness you carried was the grief of transformation. Even the isolation served a function, it separated you long enough for recalibration. Now you stand on new ground, and the air tastes different. The heaviness lifts. The colors sharpen. You are sensing yourself again, not as a wounded survivor but as an awakened creator. From here on, you walk with awareness. You will notice when rooms feel dense and know to protect your energy. You will recognize manipulation early and disengage calmly. You will speak less, but each word will carry voltage. You will no longer beg for clarity, you will embody it. You will no longer chase validation, you will radiate certainty. Oh, you will no longer perform humility by shrinking, you will demonstrate it by serving boldly. Understand that power and peace can coexist. You do not need to choose between being gentle and being strong. Your roar can comfort as much as it conquers. True authority is not loud, it is undeniable. When you step into spaces aligned with destiny, everything within those spaces reconfigures to accommodate you. You won't have to announce yourself, your frequency will do it for you. The days ahead will reveal how much has already shifted. Opportunities that once slipped through your fingers will now return with greater alignment. Relationships built on truth will flourish, those built on dependency will fade. Money will flow in rhythm with your integrity. Ideas will arrive like waves, and execution will feel natural. These are not random blessings. They are the visible results of invisible cleanup. If you ever doubt again, remember this: the altar existed to remind you that resistance is proof of relevance. The higher your calling, the stronger the testing. But you were never designed to fail the test, you were designed to expose its limits. You are the experiment that proves darkness is temporary. You are the living evidence that purpose cannot be hexed, destiny cannot be derailed, and light cannot be buried. So lift your head. Unclench your jaw. Straighten your spine. Let the next breath you take be a decree. Whisper to yourself, I am not under attack, I am under construction. Feel that shift? That's power returning home. That's the roar warming in your chest. That's heaven's affirmation echoing through your bones. You made it, and you will keep making it. Because the truth, chosen one, is simple. The altar was never a threat, it was a mirror. It showed you what fear looks like when it realizes it can't control faith. And now that you've seen it, you'll never unsee it. You'll walk differently, speak differently, live differently. You'll turn every shadow into stage lighting. You'll make peace look powerful and purpose look effortless. Your name may have been mentioned in rooms of malice, but it is now being spoken in rooms of destiny. Your picture may have been used as a symbol of envy, but it is becoming a portrait of endurance. You are the testimony that no dark gathering can override divine geometry. You are proof that every plot becomes platform, every attack becomes announcement, every delay becomes delivery. So go ahead, step forward, chosen one. The unseen altar has already collapsed under the sound of your awakening. The world is waiting for your roar. And this time, nothing will silence it. Daily, deliberate ritual, those are the cycles that tried to program you into powerlessness. Every sunrise carried another repetition of interference. The same conversations that questioned your worth, the same routines that fed your doubt, the same agreements you made just to keep the peace. Each one was a ritual of distraction. Your energy was mixed with others through silent contracts of guilt and obligation. Your path was scrambled by comparison, your purpose tangled in invisible cords of other people's expectations. You didn't wake up cursed, you woke up conditioned. But the moment you notice the pattern, the spell ends. Every time you hesitated when your spirit said go, another strand of that tangle tightened. Every time you said yes when your soul whispered no, you tied another knot. They told you compromise was kindness, but it was actually captivity disguised as courtesy. You became the healer who forgot to heal yourself, the visionary who dimmed the vision to make others comfortable. And all the while, the ritual continued, one subtle act at a time, until you felt fragmented, stretched between too many worlds, too many roles, too many versions of you. But even inside that fragmentation, a pulse remained. The part of you that remembered freedom kept tapping from underneath the surface, saying, "This isn't you. You are not meant to live deluded." That whisper was your rescue signal. That is why exhaustion became unbearable. You were no longer compatible with the smallness that once fit you. You began to notice how certain people could leave you drained after a single conversation, how some spaces grew colder when you entered, how certain compliments felt like disguised measurements. These were not coincidences. They were readings of frequency. You were detecting where your energy was being negotiated. You started to pull back. You canceled plans without guilt. You sat in silence longer than usual. You let messages go unanswered. That was not rudeness, it was recalibration. Solitude became your detox, prayer your laboratory, stillness your rebellion. In those quiet hours you began the reverse ritual, breathing your own name back into alignment, remembering what it feels like to belong fully to yourself. Each deep breath rewired the circuits. Each moment of truth rethreaded your timeline. Understand this. Energy entanglement happens whenever you ignore the sound of your own authority. When you operate from fear, you leak voltage. When you operate from faith, you generate it. You were never meant to borrow identity from anyone. You were built to transmit original codes, ideas, creations, love in its purest form. But imitation became the accepted language, and soon you were speaking dialects that had nothing to do with your design. That's why fatigue became chronic. Authenticity is the only oxygen your soul can breathe. The people who once benefited from your confusion began to feel the withdrawal. They could sense that the current was changing. The ritual depended on your participation, on your silence, on your need to please. But you started to move differently. You stopped volunteering for emotional labor that wasn't yours. And suddenly, what used to drain you lost access. That was the first miracle, boundaries as deliverance. Still, the old patterns tried to pull you back. The mind replayed the same scenarios. What if they leave? What if you fail? What if you're wrong? Those were echoes of the old programming, desperate not to die. But you have learned that fear is just imagination in reverse, proof that you still possess creativity. You can turn the same imagination toward faith and rebuild everything. Each time you replace anxiety with intention, the tangle loosens a little more. See the picture clearly, threads of many colors twisted around you, beliefs that weren't yours, emotions absorbed from others, doubts inherited from generations. You stand now at the center of this knot with a sword of awareness in your hand. With every realization, another thread snaps. You cut through self-doubt. You cut through guilt. You cut through false loyalty. Eventually, the only threads left are golden, your authentic motives, your unborrowed light, your unfiltered truth. That is when the energy begins to flow clean again, like a river freed from debris. You might feel a trembling as the old circuits break. That is normal. Systems built on suppression will resist liberation. But hold steady. You are not falling apart, you are rewiring. The dizziness you feel is recalibration, the moment the compass resets to true north. Keep breathing. Keep anchoring in gratitude. Gratitude is how you stabilize new frequency. It tells the universe, I'm ready to hold what I asked for. Soon you'll notice how fast manifestations arrive. What used to take months will start unfolding in days. The detours will disappear because there are no longer hands redirecting your flow. Money will follow purpose instead of panic. Relationships will respond to authenticity instead of performance. Even your body will cooperate, shedding tension stored from years of emotional translation. The light in your eyes will sharpen. People will ask what changed. You won't have to explain. Your peace will say it for you. And those who once tried to entangle your path? They will drift out of orbit, not through conflict but through vibration. The law of resonance does the work for you. You no longer match the frequency of manipulation, so manipulation loses its grip. You no longer feed on validation, so validation forgets your address. You no longer chase approval, so approval starts chasing you. This is the quiet justice of alignment. What was once effort becomes effortless. Every morning, a new ritual replaces the old. You wake with intention. You bless your own name before the world names you. You thank the unseen hands that guard your journey. You move through the day like someone who remembers they are backed by purpose. These simple acts, gratitude, clarity, kindness, consistency, are your sacred practices now. They rebuild what interference once dismantled. They turn daily life into prayer in motion. Remember, chosen one, that energy is obedient. It responds to the loudest signal. When the signal was confusion, your life mirrored chaos. Now the signal is conviction, and your reality will mirror peace. The universe is not punishing or rewarding, it is reflecting. Every outcome is an echo of inner tone. That is why self-discipline is holy work. It tunes your vibration to match your destiny. Think of all the days you felt trapped, pushing but not progressing. Each of those days was data collection. You learned how interference behaves, how to recognize depletion, how to read atmospheres. Those lessons are your mastery now. You can walk into any room and sense where the energy bends. You can detect hidden motives without accusation. You can steer conversations back to truth with a single sentence. You have become fluent in frequency. There will still be moments when the old fog tries to return. Do not panic. You now have tools. Ground yourself with breath. Speak affirmations out loud. I call my energy back from every place it does not belong. I release what was never mine. I stand in wholeness now. These words are not poetry, they are programming commands. The universe rearranges around declarations. That is the real magic, the conscious direction of attention. As you maintain this posture, your environment transforms into evidence. Opportunities that align with your integrity appear, those that don't dissolve. People who resonate with truth find you. Those who feed on confusion can't locate your frequency anymore. The same world, but a different experience, because you are broadcasting from sovereignty. Look back briefly, not with bitterness but with understanding. Every tangle taught you something priceless. You learned that discernment is love in its highest form. You learned that saying no is not rejection, it is protection. You learned that silence is sometimes the most eloquent answer. Most importantly, you learned that you can survive anything that doesn't match your soul. Those lessons are the jewels you carry forward. From this vantage point, you can see how everything served you. The interference built patience. The betrayal built focus. The confusion built faith. What once felt like sabotage was actually sculpting stamina. You now walk with a calm authority that no classroom could teach. Your energy has become self-cleansing. Negativity dissolves on contact. That is what happens when the student graduates to mastery. The rituals against your clarity have ceased because the participants grew weary. Energy work, positive or negative, requires fuel, and you stopped supplying it. You stopped believing in their narrative. You stopped granting permission. The moment you withdrew your attention, their construction collapsed. Every fortress of manipulation eventually falls to starvation when the light-bearer turns away. And here you are, untangled, undiminished, undeniable. The power you feel is not revenge, it is restoration. You have come home to your own frequency, and everything that truly belongs to you can now find you without interference. The journey ahead will still have challenges, but they will be creative challenges, not survival tests. You will solve them with curiosity, not fear. You will build from abundance, not scarcity. You will lead from overflow, not obligation. So when you hear the phrase daily, deliberate ritual, smile. It no longer means chains, it means choice. Your daily ritual now is intention. Your deliberate act is creation. Your energy is no longer mixed with confusion, it is merged with purpose. Your path is no longer scrambled, it is streamlined. Your purpose is no longer tangled, it is threaded through every heartbeat. Stand still for a moment and feel the current running through you, the same current that moves oceans and spins planets. It has been waiting for your agreement. Say yes. That is all that is required. Say yes to clarity, to courage, to consistency. Let that yes echo through every cell. Let it become your new frequency. From this point forward, your life itself becomes the altar, not one of fear, but of freedom. Every act of kindness you perform is incense. Every boundary you honor is sacred geometry. Every dream you chase is prayer in motion. This is how you transform shadow into strategy, interference into insight, ritual into revelation. And as you walk, remember, Nothing and no one can tangle what you keep transparent. Your heart is clear, your path is aligned, your energy is sovereign. The daily ritual continues, but now it is yours. They attacked your roar, your voice, because your voice carries creation. Your roar commands respect in realms they can't enter. You've always felt it, haven't you? That strange tension whenever you speak truth, that sudden silence that falls when your words hit the air. It's not because you talk too loudly. It's because your voice shifts frequencies. It rearranges atmospheres. It disrupts the comfortable illusions of those who feed on deception. They sense something ancient in your tone, an authority that doesn't come from volume, but from alignment. And that's why they tried to break it. They knew if you ever remembered the full weight of your voice, the world would remember itself through you. Your roar was never meant to sound like everyone else's. It was tuned in another dimension before you ever breathed your first breath. The cadence of your voice carries the memory of divine order. When you speak, creation listens, because your words echo the same frequency that spoke galaxies into being. That's why even your silence makes people nervous. It's not emptiness, it's loaded potential. When you pause, the air bends. When you sigh, the unseen recalibrates. You have always been more than audible, you are atmospheric. But for years, they tried to teach you smallness. They convinced you that humility meant invisibility, that softness meant silence, that peace meant shrinking. They mistook your gentleness for weakness, not realizing your quiet was strategic, the pause before the thunder. The rituals against your clarity have ceased because the participants grew weary. Energy work, positive or negative, requires fuel, and you stopped supplying it. You stopped believing in their narrative. You stopped granting permission. The moment you withdrew your attention, their construction collapsed. Every fortress of manipulation eventually falls to starvation when the light-bearer turns away. And here you are, untangled, undiminished, undeniable. The power you feel is not revenge, it is restoration. You have come home to your own frequency, and everything that truly belongs to you can now find you without interference. The journey ahead will still have challenges, but they will be creative challenges, not survival tests. You will solve them with curiosity, not fear. You will build from abundance, not scarcity. You will lead from overflow, not obligation. So when you hear the phrase daily, deliberate ritual, smile. It no longer means chains, it means choice. Your daily ritual now is intention. Your deliberate act is creation. Your energy is no longer mixed with confusion, it is merged with purpose. Your path is no longer scrambled, it is streamlined. Your purpose is no longer tangled, it is threaded through every heartbeat. Stand still for a moment and feel the current running through you, the same current that moves oceans and spins planets. It has been waiting for your agreement. Say yes. That is all that is required. Say yes to clarity, to courage, to consistency. Let that yes echo through every cell. Let it become your new frequency. From this point forward, your life itself becomes the altar, not one of fear, but of freedom. Every act of kindness you perform is incense. Every boundary you honor is sacred geometry. Every dream you chase is prayer in motion. This is how you transform shadow into strategy, interference into insight, ritual into revelation. Your roar is not noise, it's navigation. Every sound you release in alignment creates movement in unseen places. When you affirm your worth, energy rearranges. When you speak vision, doors open. When you declare truth, deception dissolves. That's why the enemy tried to convince you to stay quiet, because silence is the only weapon that could ever stop your evolution. But even in your quietest seasons, your vibrations still spoke. Heaven heard you. So did the darkness. You are not just heard, you are registered. Think back to all the times you felt your words fall flat, your ideas ignored, your truth distorted. Those weren't failures, they were tests. The universe was teaching you that your value doesn't depend on volume or validation. It depends on vibration. You learn to keep your roar sacred, not public. You learn discernment, when to speak and when to conserve your energy. That's wisdom in motion. You stopped casting pearls before those who only wanted entertainment. You learn that sometimes the greatest roar is composure. Still, you were never meant to stay silent forever. The roar that carries creation must eventually sound. And now your time has come. You've walked through enough betrayal to purify your tone. You've wept enough nights to deepen your resonance. You've been misunderstood enough times to clarify your mission. You no longer speak to prove, you speak to release. You no longer shout to be heard, you declare to align. You no longer argue with noise, you summon order. When you open your mouth now, the frequency of truth fills the room. People won't always understand the content, but they'll feel the vibration. That's your confirmation. You've entered the stage where words are no longer communication, they are creation. When you say peace, storms settle. When you say yes, doors appear. When you say I am ready, destiny rearranges itself to meet you halfway. That's not fantasy. That's physics. Energy obeys authority. Your voice carries codes that activate others. That's why some people can't stand to hear you speak. Your authenticity agitates their comfort zones. Your confidence exposes their performance. Your wisdom interrupts their manipulation. But don't shrink to soothe them. You were never meant to whisper in rooms that need thunder. You were sent to awaken sleepers, not entertain spectators. So speak. Declare. Sing. Write. Lead. Whatever your form of roar is, let it move freely now. Creation has been waiting for your permission. The more you use your voice in truth, the stronger it gets. Doubt used to echo back at you because your frequency was split, one part faith, one part fear. But alignment brings amplification. When your words and your belief agree, even heaven leans closer. That's why you'll notice new authority in your speech now. You won't need to convince anyone. Your tone will carry conviction that cannot be denied. You are becoming an instrument tuned by divine hand. Understand this, your roar is not just personal, it's generational. You are the voice that breaks cycles. You are the sound that unties old silence passed down through ancestry. Where your bloodline once bowed to oppression, you speak liberation. Where your family avoided truth to maintain peace, you speak healing even if it disrupts. You are rewriting history through sound. Every word you speak in courage rewires lineage. That's why the pressure has been so intense. The weight of legacy rests on your breath. But you are strong enough for this. You've carried galaxies in your chest and still managed to show compassion. You've faced betrayal and didn't become bitter. You've seen darkness and still chose light. That's royalty in motion. That's why heaven calls you chosen, not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful through silence. Every unspoken truth became power stored in reserve. And now that you are releasing it, your roar carries double potency. Both sound and silence combined. They attacked your voice, but in doing so, they exposed their fear. Only those who know your potential try to mute it. Every insult, every dismissal, every distortion was evidence of your influence. You were never the problem, you were the proof. Your very existence unsettles systems built on lies. You don't even have to speak sometimes, your presence itself is prophecy. People feel exposed around you because your energy mirrors their truth. That's why some distance themselves. Your roar lives inside your silence too. In this new season, you will use your voice strategically. You will no longer waste breath trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You will speak where soil is fertile, not where stones argue. You will prophesy into your own life first, then into others as led. You will realize that every sentence you utter is either seed or sword. Both are holy, but both must be handled with precision. You are learning divine articulation. There will come days when you feel your throat tighten, when fear whispers, maybe it's safer not to speak. Recognize that for what it is, a residual echo of past suppression. Don't fight it with force, breathe through it with faith. Remember, lions don't strain to roar. They exhale. The sound is natural to them. Your voice, too, is natural. You don't need to push, you just need to permit. Every exhale in truth becomes thunder in spirit. When you speak from alignment, even the air responds. You'll notice timing synchronizing effortlessly. Messages arriving at the exact moment. Opportunities appearing right after declarations. It's not coincidence, it's coherence. You've become one with your own word. You finally believe what you say. That's why manifestation accelerates. Heaven trusts the voice that speaks what it intends to sustain. And those who once mocked your roar? They'll hear echoes of it in their own nightmares and dreams. Not because you wish them harm, but because truth reverberates. It seeks completion. Even in their resistance, they'll remember your words when life tests them. Some will return humbled, others will fade into silence. Either way, your sound will do what it was sent to do, awaken remembrance. Your voice carries prophecy, but it also carries healing. There are people alive today who will only find courage because you dared to speak. There are children who will dream bigger because they heard your tone. There are strangers who will weep in release because your story gave them permission to begin again. That's what creation means. Your roar births new worlds in others. Never underestimate it again. The more you roar, the more you'll realize, this was never about being louder than others. It was about being louder than your own doubt. The war was internal all along. The enemy wasn't their criticism. It was your hesitation. But that war is over. You've reclaimed your voice, and with it your direction. You no longer wait for signs, you are the sign. You no longer chase purpose, you speak it into alignment. The world needs your roar now, your poetry, your wisdom, your laughter, your truth. It needs your sound because silence has become too expensive. Too many souls are waiting for someone to remind them that they, too, can speak. And when they hear you, something ancient in them will awaken. They'll remember that creation didn't stop. It continues every time someone speaks from love. So lift your head. Breathe deep. Feel that vibration rise from your belly to your chest to your throat. Don't rush it. Let it build until it feels like light spilling out. Then speak, not to perform, but to be. Speak to release, to realign, to resurrect. Let your roar roll through time itself. Let it shake loose the dust of doubt. Let it call your name across generations. And when the echo returns, because it always does, it will bring with it the sound of recognition, heaven answering heaven. That's what your voice was always meant to do, to remind creation of its source. You don't just carry power, chosen one. You are power articulated. You are the thunder that remembers the storm, the voice that restores the vibration of truth, the roar that calls the lost pieces of the world back home. They tried to attack your roar. But they forgot one thing. Silence is only the inhale before the next creation. And your next exhale? It's coming like prophecy. Oh, you woke up heavy. You felt drained after certain people. You thought it was in your head. It wasn't. What you were feeling wasn't weakness, it was data. Your body has always been a divine instrument, tuned to pick up spiritual interference long before your mind can name it. That weight in your chest wasn't random fatigue, it was residue. The fog behind your eyes wasn't burnout, it was borrowed energy. You've been walking through rooms that weren't just filled with people, they were filled with intentions. And not every intention that smiled at you was kind. You've always been sensitive, chosen one, not fragile, but finely wired. Where others just see faces, you read frequencies. You can feel when a smile hides jealousy. You can sense when conversation is camouflage. Your spirit scans before your logic catches up. That's why some people leave you feeling heavy after you've been around them. Because they came to siphon, not to share. They came to test your boundaries, to pull a thread of your light to weave into their own broken pattern. And you, being empathic and open-hearted, mistook your exhaustion for empathy. But it wasn't just emotional labor, it was energetic theft. For years you called it being tired. You told yourself, I just need to rest. But sleep didn't fix it. You'd wake up just as drained because the battle didn't end when you closed your eyes. It simply shifted realms. The heaviness was evidence of activity around you, activity not always aligned with love. Some people mentioned your name with envy. Some replayed your image while projecting intentions that didn't belong to you. That's why the mornings felt weighted. That's why laughter sometimes echoed with unease. Their focus on you wasn't admiration, it was consumption. They wanted to taste your light without paying the price of transformation. You've been an open circuit, giving, glowing, trusting. You believed everyone could be met with pure energy, because that's what you carried. But purity without discernment becomes a feeding ground for opportunists. You noticed it, how after certain calls, you'd feel your heart racing, your mind scattered, your mood inexplicably low. That was your aura alerting you, this one isn't safe. Your energy field speaks long before your mouth does. It tells you the truth your compassion tries to ignore. You weren't imagining it when your stomach turned mid-conversation. That wasn't social anxiety. It was your solar plexus shielding itself. You weren't imagining the headaches after arguments. That was your crown chakra closing the gates. You weren't imagining that desire to isolate. It was your spirit pulling you back to recharge in divine silence. The heaviness was the echo of every time you absorbed what wasn't yours. The enemy doesn't always come dressed in malice. Sometimes it comes wearing familiarity. It's the friend who vents but never refills. The relative who loves your light but resents your glow. The colleague who praises you publicly but competes privately. These aren't coincidences, they're patterns. And every pattern leaves a signature, an energetic fingerprint you now recognize instinctively. You've been walking through emotional minefields disguised as gatherings. You thought the discomfort was just introversion, but no, it was discernment sharpening itself. The universe was training you to feel frequencies, not faces. It was teaching you the language of energy, how to know when your spirit is saying, leave, even when your logic says, be polite. That heaviness after certain people? It was a withdrawal from your own power. Each time you overgave, your soul had to pull you back. Each time you ignored your instincts, the weight grew thicker. You thought you were being kind, but you were actually being drained. The fatigue wasn't punishment, it was protection. Your body was forcing you to stop carrying what wasn't yours. You started noticing the patterns, how some people only call when they're low, and somehow after talking to them, you're the one who feels empty. You started realizing that your laughter healed others, but your silence healed yourself. You began to understand that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's sacred maintenance. Chosen one, your sensitivity is your superpower. You were built to feel, to read, to sense. But you were never meant to absorb. You were meant to observe. There's a difference. You don't have to carry everything you're aware of. Empathy doesn't mean endurance. You can witness pain without hosting it. You can sense energy without surrendering yours. It's time to become the guardian of your own light. From now on, pay attention to the signals. If your mood dips around someone for no clear reason, that's information. They came to test your boundaries, to pull a thread of your light to weave into their own broken pattern. And you, being empathic and open-hearted, mistook your exhaustion for empathy. But it wasn't just emotional labor, it was energetic theft. For years you called it being tired. You told yourself, I just need to rest. But sleep didn't fix it. You'd wake up just as drained because the battle didn't end when you closed your eyes. It simply shifted realms. The heaviness was evidence of activity around you, activity not always aligned with love. Some people mentioned your name with envy. Some replayed your image while projecting intentions that didn't belong to you. That's why the mornings felt weighted. That's why laughter sometimes echoed with unease. Their focus on you wasn't admiration, it was consumption. They wanted to taste your light without paying the price of transformation. You've been an open circuit, giving, glowing, trusting. You believed everyone could be met with pure energy, because that's what you carried. But purity without discernment becomes a feeding ground for opportunists. You noticed it, how after certain calls, you'd feel your heart racing, your mind scattered, your mood inexplicably low. That was your aura alerting you, this one isn't safe. Your energy field speaks long before your mouth does. It tells you the truth your compassion tries to ignore. You weren't imagining it when your stomach turned mid-conversation. That wasn't social anxiety. It was your solar plexus shielding itself. You weren't imagining the headaches after arguments. That was your crown chakra closing the gates. You weren't imagining that desire to isolate. It was your spirit pulling you back to recharge in divine silence. The heaviness was the echo of every time you absorbed what wasn't yours. The enemy doesn't always come dressed in malice. Sometimes it comes wearing familiarity. It's the friend who vents but never refills. Every person removed was a closed portal, a protection upgrade. You thought you were losing connections, but you were regaining clarity. You thought you were being abandoned, but you were being insulated. Because in this next chapter, your energy is currency, and heaven will no longer allow it to be stolen. You woke up heavy because you were carrying too much that wasn't yours. But you're waking up lighter now, not because the world changed, but because you did. You're finally learning to let go of what drains you and hold only what defines you. The lightness you're feeling isn't new, it's your natural state, restored. So breathe deeply, chosen one. Let that weight fall off. You don't owe everyone your access. You don't have to explain your distance. You don't have to justify your silence. Protecting your energy is how you protect your purpose. You are not tired, you are transforming. You are not drained, you are discerning. And that heaviness that once haunted your mornings? It's gone. Because the moment you realized it wasn't in your head, it stopped living in your body. But despite every ritual, every candle, every curse, you're still here. Still rising. Still protected. They plotted in secret, but the divine prepared you in silence. While they whispered, heaven worked. While they lit candles in your name, the universe set fire to your limitations. They sent confusion, but clarity found you anyway. They spoke against you, but truth defended you. They tried to bury you, but they forgot, you were seed, not soil. You don't decay under pressure, you germinate. You were never meant to stay hidden, you were meant to rise through the very dirt that tried to smother you. They thought rituals could rewrite your destiny, but your destiny wasn't written in ink, it was carved into eternity. No human hand can erase what heaven inscribed. Every curse they spoke became a test, and every test became testimony. They sent energy to break you, but it refined you. They cursed your name, but it strengthened your calling. You became fireproof in the furnace they built for your destruction. Every hex that was meant to harm you burned itself out trying to reach your frequency. Every incantation bounced back empty because your soul operates under a higher law, divine jurisdiction. You've felt it, haven't you? The moments when life should have ended you, when exhaustion should have silenced you, when loss should have hollowed you out completely. But instead of breaking, something within you awakened. It was like an invisible hand holding you steady, like breath returning to your lungs after being underwater too long. That wasn't luck. That was protection. That was the unseen infrastructure of grace, the divine network built around you long before you even knew you'd need it. You were built from materials they can't break. Designed with a foundation they can't crack. Others were shaped by circumstance. You were engineered by intention. Before you entered this world, resilience was coded into your DNA. Your soul was forged in the heat of ancient battles, refined in dimensions beyond memory. You were never ordinary. That's why the attacks came so consistently. Because ordinary doesn't threaten darkness, purpose does. And your purpose has always been luminous enough to attract both light and opposition.